All right, so here we are on Well Talk. I am here with a very special guest today. I got Aaron Acosta on here with me. Aaron is a man of many talents, and I'm excited because not only is he a man of many talents, but he's also family, like
Yes, sir.
family.
Uh-huh.
So this is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I'm really excited to be here. It's
Yeah,
really great to have a conversation with you like
for
this. Really
sure,
excited.
dude. Same here, man. As soon as the opportunity presented itself, I was like, we got to make this happen. And there's
Absolutely.
a couple of things I know you've been up to lately, and you've been pretty busy. So I want listeners to kind of just hear from you and get some not only like inspiration, but also hear your experience too. Like you recently did a video with, and
With Jesser, the
yeah,
YouTuber, yeah.
yeah. What was
Yeah.
that like, dude?
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. So I have an account on this website called Backstage. So I do have a previous background in acting, right? But
Okay.
this is something that I did really before basketball started taking off. But
Yeah.
once basketball ended about a year ago, I kind of wanted to get back into it, right?
Mm.
So I have this account on this website called Backstage where you essentially will get these auditions that kind of match your profile. You create this whole thing that you kind of describing who you are, your previous experience, everything like that.
Yeah.
And I got this audition about this video from this YouTuber named Jesser.
Uh huh.
And to be honest, I didn't know the name. I thought this was just kind of be like a little casual job to do a video for this guy's YouTube account.
Yeah.
And I looked him up. I was like, oh, wait, I actually do know this guy. And so I went up to LA and he has this whole warehouse, like this huge warehouse. And I was like, okay, I was definitely not expecting this.
Yeah.
And I met the other guys that were in it.
Well, I just want to
Um,
highlight
and
you cooked in that video. I
thank
saw,
you. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that video was that last part at the end when you crossed him up and he was
Yeah,
that was on the
yeah.
floor and then it was like you scored. I was like, oh, we got him. Yeah,
So when
but
he said that, I was like, all right, so they're not gonna guess me.
yeah, I was
But
honestly watching it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I would have picked the third guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like from my perspective of even just doing like an objective view,
yeah.
I was like the third guy. No, and sure enough, you
They went
know,
with me.
they went with you. I'm
I
like,
don't
it
know.
is what it is. Like,
It is what they had a feeling it was me from the beginning. I don't know what it
which was
was.
weird
It
because it
was
was like,
weird.
dude, you were like calm, cool, and collected. You had the like vibe going and everything.
And they said that that's what was sus. They're like, he just seems so locked in. I'd be like, I have the answers, man. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, like he's
I
locked
won the
in.
game. I got my answers. You
Exactly.
think I would have convinced them, but
Yeah.
I guess not. But that's just how it was.
No, for sure.
Um, but it was really cool. I mean, those
Yeah.
guys were the other two guys, the quote unquote the pro players, the other
Yeah.
guys, whatever. They're really cool guys.
That's cool.
One was from LA, so he like left right after we were done, but the other one was from a little more down south. And so
Uh-huh.
me and him waited till like all the traffic died before we left.
Okay.
So me and him literally just talked for like 2 hours after we made the video.
Oh,
Just
nice.
a really classy guy. This
That's
was
cool.
actually the dude that I crossed up, whatever.
Yeah, at the end.
He was making a joke. He was like, "Man, that's never happened to me before, and now it's gonna be all over YouTube." He's
Yeah,
like, "Great, great."
that was epic though.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
cool.
Especially because we were the ones that were kind of like talking a little
Yeah,
trash to
going
each
back
other
at it. Yeah.
beforehand. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. That just tells you how it is on the court too. We always be like, you kind of be bickering, talking your trash, but it's always
For
just,
sure.
it's all love on the
It's all
court,
love, right?
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool. Dude, that's so awesome that you got that experience and then just that I guess like anything that you learned or like want to share from like what it was like.
You know, I think something that I really enjoyed about it was quite literally two of my passions intertwining, right?
Hmm.
Because I had my previous experience acting, being on a stage, performing, then obviously playing college basketball. And so in this setting, I was playing this role of a
Yeah.
professional player. I had to do a lot of improvisation and answering questions that obviously I didn't know they were going to ask,
Right.
but in a basketball context. And then during the film or the video, we got to go out and actually play.
Yeah.
So it was just really cool to see those two passions kind of intertwining together.
Yeah.
It kind of got me back into the loop of needing to do improv and starting to think quick on my feet again.
Yeah.
And I think it just showed another thing about creating those connections,
For
the
sure.
networking. I created the video with the two other guys, and we still kind of been in contact very briefly,
Yeah.
very minimally, but we still been chatting with each other. Like when the video first came out, was like sending the links to each other and was like, yeah, it's out, it's really cool. How have you been and whatnot. And so, I obviously haven't been talking to Jester. That guy got a way more busy schedule, but
Yeah,
there's still a lot of networking involved, and I still have those connections with those guys. So I felt like there was a cool combination of the acting, the basketball, but also kind of a business side to it as well.
definitely.
Establishing those connections and whatnot. So it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool day. I got to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah,
So yeah, really grateful for the whole experience.
that's cool, dude. I love that you said you got to do two things that you love, basketball and the acting and the
Yeah.
improv. And excuse me. Just hearing that is really cool because seeing you do the improv, you got to think quick on your
Gotta
feet,
think.
right? They're like, what team did you play for? Where did you live? What this and that, and you're like,
Yeah.
go.
Well, they asked me, they're like, no, you said a city outside of Berlin.
Right?
I just made a sound.
Yeah.
Like, "Verkot."
That's so.
And they're like, yo, how does he know all this stuff? I was like, dude, I just made a sound.
That was
Like,
that was perfect though
yeah,
for
they
Cotton. You're
believe
like,
me.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
it sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. So that's so cool. I think there's something there too, like in the future too, for you maybe looking into with like the acting and the putting the sports together, just kind of blending the two. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And being able to improvise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know how that will look in the future, but being able to find ways to intertwine those would
Yeah.
definitely be really cool.
For sure.
But we'll see how that goes.
Well, that's
I
cool.
think acting will always be kind of a side passion project of mine that will arise when the time comes.
There you go. Yeah, I love that. And I know, like I said in the beginning, man of many talents. You got a lot of things going, like your real estate investor. You got your acting going. You got the former college athlete, and what I want to say is former college basketball player.
Yeah.
So that part of your life, I have a lot of listeners that are athletes as well.
Mhm.
A lot of them come from high school and then go to college, or they're in college and they're playing. Dude, share a little bit about your experience, maybe even like what motivated you, what kind of kept you going. I know that those seasons are pretty grueling, and what is it that kind of just inspired you and all of that? And yeah.
Well, basketball, I will say, was always a part of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I started playing when I was 7. My dad played college basketball. He actually played at Pomona College for Greg Popovich.
Right.
His
yeah.
first coaching job ever was at Pomona College,
which is
with my
so
dad.
cool. Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
So it was always a part of my life. As I said kind of earlier, acting was kind of my main thing growing up.
Yeah.
But eventually, I grew. Right.
Yeah.
And I played the hand I was dealt. I also got a little burnout with acting, so started picking up basketball, and that became my main thing. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of the time when people think about college recruiting and wanting to play in college, like, you got to start early. You got to start early, get your name out there, do this, do that. But I really didn't get in the process of college recruitment until I was like 16. So
Oh, okay.
I really only had like 2 years to really go to these showcases, play in AAU, and really get known and seen by these recruits.
Yeah.
And so I guess kind of my point in sharing that is that I started late,
Yeah.
compared to a lot of other players.
Yeah.
16, that's your first time really trying to get recruited. That's pretty late,
For sure.
and I was still able to do it. Now, mind you, that happened because it became my job. I was going up to LA in the summer, even in the fall. We had the season in the winter, spring. I had spring workouts.
Yeah.
It literally became a full-time job. So although I started late, that time and commitment was there.
For sure.
So, if someone in high school, I didn't play varsity my freshman year too, so.
Oh, that's inspiring too.
Yeah. So, if your freshman year, you didn't make the varsity team, that doesn't mean anything.
Definitely.
I still played college ball.
Yeah. Well, even Michael Jordan didn't make a sophomore basketball team.
Yeah, he didn't. Now he's playing JV.
Can you imagine?
He's playing JV.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dude, and what if he would have just stopped?
Right.
Right.
You just those little decisions can really make a big difference.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think something that is very important to know is that time was there.
Yeah.
Make sure that time and effort was there with basketball.
For sure.
My inspiration, to be honest, my dad was a huge part of that. He was honestly the one that said, you're going to play up in LA.
Okay.
Here in San Diego.
Okay.
He's like, LA's where the real hoopers are. And I'll be real, my first year I got my butt kicked. So, but that's why he brought me up there.
For sure. You learn from playing with people that know how to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I remember one of my first practices, one of the guys just two hand shoved me to the ground, and
Mm.
I was just like, "What was that?" I'm looking
Yeah.
at the coach like, "This guy just totally fouled me,"
Yeah.
and the coach was like, "You're just gonna take that?"
Yeah.
You know. So it was
Yep.
a whole totally different culture going from the suburbs of San Diego to LA,
LA, yeah.
but it was what I needed if I really wanted to play college ball,
Yeah.
and it was just something that I was committed to and devoted to, and it, like I said, was just my full-time job for 2 years, the end of college. I mean, I missed my junior prom to go to a showcase in Chicago,
Oh wow.
so I mean, that's just
Yeah,
one example of certain decisions I made to get recruited,
for sure.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but ended up playing college basketball at a school called Colorado College in Colorado Springs, Division III,
Yeah.
and then once I graduated, got recruited by Point Loma Nazarene University here in San Diego,
Yep.
Division II. We ranked fourth in the country.
Nice.
I'm very strongly, I very strongly believe that we would have won the national tournament if injuries didn't get in our way.
Injuries, man. Yeah.
Some things you just can't totally control.
That's
Obviously,
true.
you can do your best to avoid them, but
Yeah.
what happens, happens.
Yeah.
That's part of the game, right?
Definitely. I like that you pointed that out because, yeah, there are some things that are technically out of your control. And then you learn how to make an adjustment or adapt and figure out like, hey, this is what I'll do with this now. And yeah, injuries is that's another thing. It's a part of the game.
Yep.
And you see it happen at every level.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, unfortunately, it happens. And sometimes people can come back, and sometimes it's like that.
Yeah.
So
And I think something like that is also can be a good analogy for something that can happen later in life. Now, although in a career or in a business, it's not going to be, oh, I tore my ACL,
right,
but something unexpected could happen that might get in the way of the specific path of the specific goal that you're trying to achieve, and learning how to overcome that, or work past it or work around that, whatever that scenario may be.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a sports setting, it's an injury, not allowing that injury to possibly affect what you want to do with this team or get in the way of that. Now, obviously, sometimes you can only do so much, but
for sure,
it teaches you kind of that skill of hard work and overcoming this conflict
that
you were given, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of life lessons when it comes to that kind of stuff as well, also, I believe.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something that I'm huge on as well, is like learning how to adapt or pivot when necessary. I actually even had a conversation with your dad about that in the episode as well, is like just figuring out how to problem solve. And sometimes things happen in life. And one of the things that I like to emphasize too is like a mind stance, where you're able to like pivot, kind of like the basketball principle. You pivot and adjust when necessary. And I think that's a perfect example of what you're talking about right there. So yeah,
you just never know.
Never know.
There's a lot of life lessons in basketball, like teamwork. Know, knowing how to work with a team, but also competing within that team.
Yeah,
like, I want you to do well, but I want to get my minutes
for sure. That's true.
And so it's a cool culture to be into, with that competitive side, but also the camaraderie there as well.
Yeah.
Really grateful for all that. My basketball experience was a lot of fun. It was a big change once it ended.
Yeah.
Wanting to find other things to fill that routine, which is where acting kind of came back into play.
Oh, okay.
Boxing also became a new thing of mine,
which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing that I never would have thought I would have started doing boxing, right? But no, I love it, man. I mean, that just became a relatively newer thing.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of been my other way to stay active and just be in shape,
Yeah, which is cool, because I think being active is super important. Whether you're working out, you're walking, you're swimming, you're doing something, jogging, whatever. Boxing for sure is a great way to take care of yourself too. And it keeps you in shape, keeps you with just being able to work on, different movement and stuff like that. And
you never know. You hope that you never have to use those skills, but when push comes to shove, at least you have them, right?
That's true too. That's true. And I'm thinking, like, just for you, as you're like, how tall are you?
6'4".
6'4", and like your reach is You gotta
Yeah,
have a pretty.
those arms help for sure. Yeah,
You gotta have
my
a mean
wingspan about
reach.
six
Yeah,
seven.
yeah, that's a good
That's what they
jab.
tell me. Like I get too excited and I always try and get invasive. They're like, Aaron,
uh,
keep your like
keep
use
your
that
distance.
length,
Use
use
that
that
jab.
reach, use
Yeah,
that reach. You know,
yeah,
so and there's certain things obviously I'm learning with that reach, right?
for sure.
But it's fun. I think that's one thing too about boxing. There's so much more to it than
That's
I thought.
definitely, yeah. And
Yeah.
I love that sport as well, boxing too. And you know, hearing about you doing boxing and you saying like that you kind of continued to do the act, you're staying active with that as well. Dude, one thing I like to highlight on here as well with this platform is like taking care of yourself and being able to make sure you're either physically fit and then mentally fit.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like for you, especially throughout the years and where you are now, like what do you do to take care of yourself? Like how are you? You do the boxing, and you know, is there stuff that you do to like help you relax, help you like kind of stay focused, and or even just have a good time? Like what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I actually recently created this new routine at night. This is
Hmm.
kind of my way to wind down.
Okay.
It's very easy, very casual. It's kind of a little, I don't know, interesting, I guess you could say.
Uh-huh.
But I like to journal a lot.
Nice.
So journaling has become a big thing recently in my life, which is actually something that I got from my therapist.
Okay.
And that's another thing, right? I go to therapy about every 2 weeks or so. So we can kind of talk about that in a sec. But
For sure.
on my own ritual at night, I like to kind of wind down. I'll listen to some soft jazz music.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
You heard me. Soft
Yeah.
jazz music.
Yeah.
I'll kind of turn the lights down and just start journaling in my journal, right? Just
Yeah.
talking about the day, anything. You know, it's a very casual way of writing. I like to do it. It's almost as if I'm talking to myself, right?
Mm.
Very casual way. I'll talk about what's going on, what's in my thoughts, how I've been feeling that day. But I use it as kind of a way to kind of just, like I said, wind down. But I also like to read back and kind of see the progression of my
Yeah.
thoughts and where I'm kind of going day by day.
Definitely.
So that's kind of been like a nightly thing of mine.
Hmm.
I need to get more consistent with it, just to be completely honest, especially after the holiday season.
Uh-huh.
Just been so busy. It's sometimes I get to bed late. I'm like, I think I should just go to sleep and journal right now.
Yeah.
But I want to get more consistent with it. So that's kind of one self care routine that I do at night. I want to get into meditating as well,
Nice.
which I think would be more of a morning thing.
For sure.
But as I said, I go to therapy twice a week.
Okay.
And I started it during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's just something that I felt I needed, wanting to talk to almost a non-biased person.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right? Wanting to hear what I needed to hear, the good and the bad, but like I said, from a third party, someone that doesn't know or isn't, what's the word, like influenced or
That makes sense.
whatever.
Objective.
There you go. Yeah.
And neutral.
Yes, exactly. And so it really helped, and we talk about all aspects, my experiences in sports.
Hmm.
Obviously, at that time was the pandemic and just what's generally going on in my life and what I like to work on.
Yeah.
And this was something I honestly kind of wish I did a little bit more when I was playing college sports.
Mm.
Because, we have those days with our coaches, right?
Yeah.
Days with our coaches that are not the greatest, I think every athlete will have that experience, right? But I think there's also this stigma, which is something that I struggled with in college and why I didn't want to pursue it, but kind of wish I did. There's a social stigma that men shouldn't go to therapy, right? Because if they do, then they're soft, right?
Yeah.
But I think, in my opinion, there's a certain strength to going to it.
Yeah.
Actually being able to say like, hey, I think I actually do kind of need this
for sure
support.
Yeah.
I don't even want to necessarily say help. Maybe some people would use that word, but I like support more. I just need some extra support, someone to talk to, and I think almost being able to admit that and approach that shows a sign of strength.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Definitely.
And so that's part of the reason why I wish I did a little more in college. I think it would have been really helpful to actually have a third party to talk to besides my other teammates who know the coach or have their own relationship with the coach. To just kind of resolve certain problems that I have in my head. Maybe I'm misinterpreting something, overthinking something, which is a common theme of mine, overthinking. Actually, it's totally off on a tangent, but there's this
cool.
DJ named oh my gosh, Kenny Beats.
Okay.
Kenny Beats, and he has a clothing brand that he calls Dots. Stands for Don't Overthink And it's
Uh,
actually one of my I got a lot of stuff just because the style is cool, but I just
yeah,
also like the message within it as well.
nice.
And so kind of that theme of overthinking was also part of the reason why I wanted to go to therapy as well.
Okay.
So
Dude, that's so cool. That's awesome. And huge that, like, first of all, that you would identify that, like, hey, I want to just go and get some support, like you said. I think I have this presentation slash opinion that therapy is technically for everybody,
yeah.
at no matter what stage you are in life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place where you can go and just get support. And unfortunately, a lot of times, like you said, males are there's like a negative stigma for if you go to therapy.
Yeah.
And like for example, I've been to therapy, right? I did therapy. I'm a therapist. They make you go to therapy anyway. Like so they're like, "Hey, you got to go to therapy cuz you got to work through your stuff too."
Yeah.
And like I did therapy. I did therapy in grad school and then even before grad school. And I've talked about how some of the things that I got from that was I still use to this day, you know, and the tools and life tools. And I think huge props to you. Also, dude, being a Latino male, bro, that's a game changer because within the Latino community, unfortunately, it's also been like almost like a negative stigma where it's like, we don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about that. We don't do that. We just kind of push and like
Hope it works
hope
out.
it works out. All right. We roll the dice and like let it
Yeah.
go. Yeah. And I think this is huge for not only like listeners, but just, you know, people that I have on this platform. A lot of them are Latino males that we talk and we're like, dude, hey, we have feelings, right? We
Yeah.
go through things, we deal with things, and we're people feel and we have emotions. And what a opportunity to have you and come on here and share that some of your story with that and how it's helped you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think too, obviously, I think as a man, obviously, I don't have my own family yet, but eventually, having your own family, the rest of your family members, at least in my, it's like the priority, right?
Yeah,
Supporting, taking care of them, right?
for
So a
sure.
lot of the time, it's like, no, I'm gonna help them before I kind of help myself, right?
Yeah,
That kind of ordeal. But
yeah,
in my opinion, I think if you really want to help them to your max,
yeah.
the best way that you can, you're gonna have to be in a healthy spot too,
Boom, there
you
it
know.
is. Yeah,
And so, I think helping yourself while helping others is actually what's going to be the most efficient, most productive.
so true.
And so that's kind of how I see it.
Wise words. Yeah,
Yeah.
wise words. And you know, man, just hearing you, dude, you're 24 and you're a very wise young man. You know,
Thank you. Appreciate
24.
that.
Yeah, because you know, there's a lot of people out there that are young and they're maybe they're book smart and stuff, and you are book smart, but on top of that, you have wisdom, and I think that within itself just adds so much more to all that you do and what you're going to be doing in the future. And so this is super cool to see you here because for the listeners that don't know, I mean, the last time Aaron and I interacted, it was a while ago, and he was very
I was
young.
like this big, right? I was like down here.
Yeah, yeah, and so we go way back, and I think just seeing the young man that you're continuing to grow into is so cool, and I know your parents are proud, but as your older cousin, I'm super proud of you too, man.
I appreciate that, man. I'm
Yeah,
really grateful for today.
likewise.
Something that we were talking about earlier was me wanting to kind of meet my extended family. And you and I had never really had time like this. And so
Right,
I'm really happy that we're having this time today. And I'm
likewise.
really grateful for that.
Same, man. And I think even what you were sharing about the like that clothing line too, the don't overthink, and then you yeah,
Yes, yes.
and I love that, and that's really what this platform is for too, to just try and help people understand like it's okay to talk about mental health, it's okay to talk about wellness, and really break down the barriers and stigma of, hey, like you can go to therapy, you can still be like functioning and doing therapy and helping yourself, and like you said too with the family, yeah, I'm a husband and a father, and dude, if I'm not taking care of myself, it's not gonna happen where I'm taking care of my, I'm not taking care of my family. I got to make sure I'm doing well too.
Absolutely.
And so I think you're already ahead of the game when you're taking care of yourself now, and it's just going to roll over. So that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the best way, or the way that you'll be able to help them the most is if you're okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I see it.
For sure.
Need to, I really don't get it, man. Maybe just because I am from a younger generation, just this negative stigma on saying, hey, I do need a little bit of support.
Yeah.
It's just something that I never really understood. I never understood. Why is that so wrong?
I hear you, man. And I think that's exactly why this platform exists in a lot of ways, to have and have individuals like yourself from a younger generation too come on and talk about it and really say like, hey, I'm advocating for this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had gone through some things in my life that was very eye-opening. Things that taught me like, okay, actually, I'm not invincible. You know what I mean? And those moments were scary for sure. And because of that, it made me see a lot of things very differently, just about life in general. I think therapy was a good example of that.
Yeah.
But there's also this word called sonder that I really kind of believe in. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before.
I'm somewhat familiar, but yeah.
Yeah, so like kind of the logic that everyone kind of has their own day-to-day life. You don't know what's going on with everyone's lives today.
So true.
Yeah. Like using the example of you're walking down the street and you accidentally bump into somebody.
Yeah.
This person blows up 10 out of 10, just completely raging at you, calling you this, calling you that. And you're like, man, this guy's just a mean dude. He's just not a nice guy. Well, you actually don't know what was going on in his life.
That's true, man.
Right? Something really bad could have happened to him that day. And bumping into him is what set him off.
Right? Yeah.
Now, there's that line too. Like if someone's disrespecting me, I'm gonna have my self-respect to stand up for myself as well. But in small contexts like that, I'm gonna give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
If we're just bumping into each other and you're gonna do that, all right, man, you know what? I'm just gonna assume that you have a lot going on. I'm sorry about that. I'm just gonna continue with my day rather than just turning it into a whole negative. It could even turn into a fight. It just
that's true, man. And
to me,
that's so good that you have that perspective, though. Like I said, that shows your maturity, because not a lot of people have that. A lot of people will just pop off on that person and not take the time to be like, hold on, I don't know the whole situation. And rather than engage in some sort of conflict, I'm going to keep a calm, cool head and be like, look, I'm working on myself too.
Exactly.
Right? Because we're all working on ourselves. Mm-hmm. At some point, we're all in that phase. And that's huge. I love that, because you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what's going on in their life, and they don't know what's going on in your life. Exactly. And we all have our own story.
Yes.
Right. So I love that. Huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all traits of empathy, right?
There you go.
For whatever reason, it seems like there's not a lot of empathy in this country right now.
Unfortunately,
like everything is very selfish and individualistic.
Yeah.
And so, something that's kind of been hard to see, and kind of like I said earlier, just kind of hard to understand. I just really don't get it, man.
I hear you.
Just a lot of the decisions that's been going on, and just it's not very logical to me. So that's why I'm just like, I guess I'll do my best to do what I do, and to help those around me.
Yeah, you control what you can control.
Exactly.
Right, and that's huge. And I want to highlight empathy. Yeah. So, like you were saying, man, empathy.
Yep.
Empathy is huge, and I think, unfortunately, so many people don't understand what empathy truly means. Mm-hmm. There is sympathy, right, where people you feel sorry for someone.
Yep.
But then empathy is really putting yourself in that person's position and taking that perspective, and really just saying like, I don't even know what it's like to be in your shoes, but help me understand.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think empathy requires a little more effort.
Oof, that's good.
Sympathy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could be part of the reason why
exactly
it's not as
very true.
Anyone can say I feel sorry for you.
Yeah. Or sorry, right? Yeah.
Like, how many people are actually gonna take that effort to really understand
and sit in it with you?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways
it's uncomfortable.
In a lot of ways it's draining. Mm-hmm. Where you take that emotional flooding, or that like, I don't even know how to respond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you got to try and go with that. And
But a lot of the time too, that person you're trying to be empathetic with, will appreciate that effort anyways, you know. 'Cause I don't
Yes.
think,
Yes.
just to be honest, I don't think that you are going to fully understand what they're going through.
Exactly.
Like, I just don't think that's possible because they are who they are. You don't know what truly goes in their head.
Right.
Um, but just the fact that you're trying, I
Yeah.
think, is what's gonna show a lot of
That's
effort and carry
perfect.
that message. You
Yeah.
know,
I love that.
I think something too that I wish could be a little different, at
Mm.
least in my story, was how I learned this lesson.
Mm.
So I had these experiences in college. It literally started 3 months after I got into college, but I was taking this acne medication that was prescribed to me,
Mm.
and it caused my brain to swell. And so,
Wow.
because of that, I had a seizure.
Mm.
And ever since then, I've been prone to seizures.
Mm.
And so, what I mean by my point is regarding empathy and how I wish it kind of ended up differently was I learned these lessons about empathy and perspective, and what you said earlier with wisdom
Mm-hmm.
was through my experiences with seizures. And I wish it
Wow.
didn't take something as severe as experiencing a seizure to understand what empathy was, and being
Mm.
able to, like the Sonder word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before I
Yeah.
could, in order to really understand what those meant, I wish it didn't take a seizure in order for me to do that. But
Yeah.
I think it really did. I
Mm.
mean, it was a whole process in college, 3 months into college, right at the beginning of the basketball season, December 18th, 2018.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
And so, being in a whole new environment, even with people I had just met 3 months ago,
Yeah.
I had this in front of them, you
Mm.
know. It was a very vulnerable spot to
Yeah.
be in, obviously.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
And it's scary, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously ever since then I've been prone to them. My
Mm-hmm.
neurologist describes it as a memory. My brain kind of has this chemical imbalance, whatever. It's so quick just to go to this malfunction because that's what
Mm.
it associates it with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she described it as a memory, but um, it was really scary at first being able to differentiate what is me just being lightheaded from a long day of practice or what is truly about to lead to a seizure, right? And
Wow.
so because of that, that created so much stress, a lot of uncertainty for me, my parents,
Yeah.
even my teammates.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously didn't want me going through this.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those lessons were from that. And I think one thing I'd like to know, I think this is very important, is it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
For sure.
But being able to take an experience like that
Mm-hmm.
and to say, okay, what can I take away from this?
Yeah.
Something I like to tell myself too is everything does happen for a reason.
Mm.
Now, how do you say I had a seizure? This happened for a reason,
Right.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
But I took something out of it, and it was those lessons that we were talking about right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? About perspective, understanding other people's experiences, putting yourself in their shoes, or vice versa.
Yeah.
A lot of that came from these experiences, those life lessons.
Mm.
And it took years. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been experiencing this for now a quarter of my life.
Yeah.
This didn't just happen right away. I mean,
Right.
it took a lot of time to even just get past the fact that I'm having seizures. That took a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just experiencing those things really taught me a lot.
For sure.
And as I said earlier, I wish I could have been taught in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's how I learned.
Yeah.
And it's still something I deal with. I think an example of perspective too is every morning I take my seizure meds, right? That's how I start my day.
Mm.
And throughout these last 6 years, it was always the thought of mine that, man, at the start of every day, I'm just constantly reminded of what's going on.
Mm.
Every morning, first thing I do is take my meds. I have seizures. I'm exposed to seizures, blah, 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 every morning.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that with my mother, and she told me, she was like, Aaron, you have to see it differently.
Mm.
I understand what you're saying, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to understand too that you should be grateful that these meds even exist.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, even I don't know the exact time these came out, but let's just say 40 years ago,
Yeah.
these meds didn't exist.
Right.
So the fact that I'm living in a time where they do exist, that I can actually take these medications to help my seizures,
Yeah.
is something you should be grateful for.
Mm.
And so my mom also, I mean, that was just an example, but really helped me a lot, changing certain negative perspectives into something positive, or at least a gratitude,
Yeah.
a grateful perspective.
Yeah.
And so, it was a bumpy, that was a very bumpy 6 years with those experiences, but there's a lot of things I learned from it,
For
And
sure.
so, kind of going back to my example of bumping into someone from the street, right?
Yeah.
In my, if I were to use myself as an example, someone were to bump into me and I lose my mind,
Yeah.
whatever. Well, they didn't know that I had a seizure that day and I was in the hospital for 3 hours prior.
Yeah.
They just didn't know that,
Yeah.
right? So they're gonna think, oh man, this guy's just a total.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, you actually don't know my story and what I'm
Hmm.
going through. And so kind of connecting the word Sonder with a personal experience, that's kind of how I connect those two.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, but here we are.
Yeah.
I was still able to be all conference for 2 years while it was going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pandemic happened, so that shut down our third season.
Yeah.
But still being able to be successful on the court while all this was happening was
Yeah.
something that I'm definitely very proud of. It required a lot of discipline
Yeah.
and consistency,
Mm.
knowing actually what am I here for,
Yeah.
And Colorado College, a small liberal arts school in Colorado Springs, I was there to play basketball.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so knowing to prioritize that,
Yeah.
obviously school, but I was like, I'm here to hoop.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I need to put that time into hoop,
Got you.
And so it caused me to kind of do that as well.
Yeah.
And so, it was an interesting 4 years with experiencing that, the whole world shutting down with the pandemic. It
Yeah.
was an interesting time, but we
Right.
learned a lot from it, right?
Definitely, man. Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I just want to share. Like, I appreciate you sharing your story, part of it, because I know that that's not even like the whole thing, but just sharing that, I think it's super empowering, motivating. It just goes to show how resilient you are
Thank you.
and how you've persevered through obstacles. And I love even what you said about what your mom, like Kathy, had said as well, with that reframe, right? And reframing it and looking at it. It doesn't dismiss what you're going through. It just simply shares, hey, there's a perspective here that we can focus on, to share, like, look, we do this. This is how we're going to function here. And then we're going to continue to persevere. And with family, with God, with all of the support, and support is the word that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You just continue to go and look what you're doing, man. I mean, you got so many awesome things going on, and like, that's so cool. I think your story is just going to impact so many people as well. It's already impacted me,
Oh, thank
so
you, man. I
yeah.
really appreciate that. That's something that I've always wanted to do, and I think I learned that from both my parents for sure. Is that throughout my career, I want to be able to say I gave back. I helped some sort of community. I helped local population, whatever that may be. I just want to be able to say that I helped
For sure.
people.
I love it.
And kind of going back, this just kind of popped in my head when you said this. I just want to make sure to give credit to the words that you said earlier about it doesn't dismiss what you're going through.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of
Definitely.
times when people say, no, you're seeing it wrong, you got to do it like this.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should do this. I'm giving you the support. It doesn't dismiss what's going on.
Right, exactly.
They're just trying to help.
Yeah.
And trying to, teach you something or trying to get you through a certain obstacle.
Exactly.
It doesn't dismiss what you're going through.
No, in no way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of time, at least I did, at first was, you don't understand what I'm going through. So how would you know?
Yeah.
Right? But they're there to give you that support. They're not dismissing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I really like that point that you made about that.
No, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of it. And I think, the more conversations that we can even have like this, we can continue to advocate for this idea of, we don't know everybody's story. There's parts that we do. Maybe we're in people's stories for like part of the chapter, and things happen and it changes, but not judging people and staying away from the quick to act. I always say, be slow to act. I mean, that's biblical. Be slow to act and quick to think, quick to listen. And really, it's about emotional regulation in a lot of it. And in this conversation too, this is huge because I think we are setting groundwork for not only advocacy, but pioneering and really breaking down barriers for not only males to come on here and chat and talk about feelings, adversity, resilience, perseverance, but then even sharing about therapy, but then within even the Latino community, and be like, hey, look, we got to talk about this stuff,
Yep.
right? And I think, dude, we got to do another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to do another
Absolutely.
one. And I just want to give you the opportunity to kind of share anything else that you wanted to give, you know, whether it's your Instagram handle for people to follow. I know that the YouTube video is up as well.
Yeah.
And just any other words that you want to share.
I think last thing I'd like to point is just the theme of the self-care, right?
Yeah.
And but also the significance of self-care and helping others too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, knowing that helping myself is
Yeah.
actually going to help others. You know,
That's so good. There it is.
That's something that I like to think.
Yeah.
You know, and so wanting to put that. I'm going to talk about social media. My Instagram is Aaron.Acosta5.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Just make sure people know how to spell it right. For some reason, that's confusing to some people still. But yeah. So Aaron.Acosta5. The YouTube video is for YouTuber Jesser.
Yeah.
The video is called "Guess the Imposter."
Yeah.
We kind of told you what happens. I did whip those professional players.
He did. He cooked.
But
yeah,
you gotta check it out, man. It was a lot of fun. Really cool to meet those people. Really cool experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out.
Definitely.
Love it.
Yeah, for sure. You got to watch it. It's the first 10 minutes of that episode.
Yeah, because they do like 3 sports.
Yeah.
Basketball, soccer, and MMA.
Yeah, but that one was really good.
15 minutes is all that matters. So.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So everyone, thanks so much for listening. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on here and sharing. Dude, I know a lot of people are going to not only be inspired by what you shared, but they're also going to really be able to do some reflecting. And that's when you can cause people to really reflect and think on things. That's how you know you're making a difference and you're causing that brain to work.
Absolutely.
So thanks, man, for hopping on here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I got to run it back.
We're running it back. So get ready for that next one. It's coming out soon. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week. Have a good one.